Once there was a middle-sized boy who liked peppermint ice cream. His name was Joe, and he was a slow boy. Sometimes he talked slowly like this. Hello. Sometimes he walked slowly like this. Step, 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 step. Sometimes Joe just felt like being slow. One day, Joe was at his grandmother's house. Grandmother had just made some autumn vegetable soup. She poured some into a kettle and gave it to Joe and said, "Now, Joe, you carry this soup right down the hill to Mother." Just as Joe started out with the kettle, a wiggly green caterpillar came wiggling by, and Joe went slowly down the hill with the caterpillar. Step, 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 step. Along came a milkman, and Joe asked him, "Do caterpillars like peppermint ice cream?" "No, Joe, caterpillars like to eat green leaves." But look, the soup is leaking out of that kettle. You'd better hurry home before all the soup is gone." And sure enough, the soup was dripping out of a tiny hole on the side of the kettle. "Hurry, Joe!" But a wriggly big brown worm came wriggling by, and Joe went slowly down the hill with the worm. Step, 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 step. Along came a policeman, and Joe asked him, "Do worms like peppermint ice cream?" "No, Joe, worms like brown mud." "But look, the soup is leaking out of the kettle. You'd better hurry home before the soup is gone." And sure enough, the soup was beginning to drip out of another tiny hole on the other side of the kettle. "Hurry, Joe!" But a shiny black ant came scurrying by, and Joe went slowly down the hill with the ant. Step, 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 step. Along came a mailman, and Joe asked him, "Do ants like peppermint ice cream?" "Well, ants like lots of things, but I think that ant is looking for a crumb of bread." "Joe, it's starting to rain. You better hurry home before that soup is full of rainwater." Sure enough, 2 drops of rain fell plink, plink, right into the autumn vegetable soup. Soon it was raining all around. Joe buttoned his raincoat and kept going down the hill to home. Down the hill, farther and farther away from the peppermint ice cream store. Joe's mother stood on the porch and looked through the rain. "Where is my Joe?" Joe was walking slowly down the hill through the rain. Step, 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 and at last there was his home. "Joe, our soup must be full of rainwater by now." "No, Mother, look." His mother looked, and what do you think? Joe had closed the lid of the kettle, closed the lid so that not another drop of rain had rained into the soup. "But that's Grandmother's leaky old kettle. I guess the soup has all dripped out by now. Just an empty kettle of nothing for supper." "No, Mother, look." His mother looked, and what do you think? Over the leaky place, Joe was holding his hand. Over the other leaky place, Joe was holding his other hand, so that none of the soup could leak out. There in the kettle was Grandmother's autumn vegetable soup, full to the brim and just right. Joe, you saved the soup. Now, what do you want, Joe? A cookie or an apple or what? Well, Joe knew there wasn't any peppermint ice cream there. He just said sadly, "Give me a crumb of bread and a slurp of mud and a green leaf." Well, Joe's mother had never heard of a boy asking for anything like that before. But she took a large crumb from the bread box, a lump of mud from the flower pot, a fresh green leaf from the plant, and gave them to Joe. "Joe, I was going to ask you to go to the ice cream store for me, but it's so late now, the peppermint ice cream store will be closed in another minute before you could get there." Peppermint ice cream? And then Joe took the money and opened the door and hurried down the steps. He passed the ant and gave him the crumb of bread. He passed the worm and gave him the lump of mud. He passed the caterpillar and gave him the green leaf. And then Joe hurried up the sidewalk as fast as he could run, like a racehorse, like a motorcycle, like an airmail plane, right into the peppermint ice cream store. And Joe said, "Please give me a big box of peppermint ice cream and a little box of peppermint ice cream and a peppermint ice cream cone." And he put down the money, picked up the big box, picked up the little box, picked up the peppermint ice cream cone, and then he ran down the sidewalk as fast as a ball through the air, a raindrop down the sky, a fire engine down the street, past the caterpillar, past the worm, past the ant, up the steps into the house to the kitchen, opened the ice box, put in the little box, put in the big box, and ate the peppermint ice cream cone all up from top to bottom, lick, lick, lick. Because Joe liked peppermint ice cream.